I'm maidenless, so obviously I don't have kids. But that doesn't change the fact that I've had to deal with kids for a few months, because I've had to deal with these two little gremlins. Now, don't get me wrong, I love these little gremlins, but that doesn't change the fact that they have been a thorn in me and my family's side throughout their entire stay with us. So, context. I have a cousin who, for this video, will be called Race, because he drives race cars. He and his, at the time, wife appointed my mom as the kid's godmother, meaning we would be the first people they would go to if things, say, turned out badly. Unfortunately, Race's marriage didn't turn out very well, but the important thing is his two kids, who we'll call Fifi and Boat. The first incident, which I'll call it, happened back in 2023, which would also be around the time where Fifi would unlock her inner devil. We were getting ready to go to a funeral and some other sad family stuff that's not important. As the youngest person there, it was pretty much obligatory for me to be the one to watch over and play with the kids, which, you know, it was nice and fun, until it wasn't. Because as Fifi was crawling over my lap to grab a toy car out of my hand, I get kicked in the face! Her heel just swings straight into my goddamn nose. Granted, this was coming from a 4-year-old, so it had the same strength of a slightly dense pool noodle, but still, that shit hurt. It even left a small scar on my nose for the rest of that visit. Like I said, this was merely the first of many annoyances these little demons would bring us. The rest of these stories happened after, things happened with Race, which resulted in him living with us for a while, trying to build his life back together. And while we're on the topic of Race, this leads to probably his biggest problem. He doesn't really know how to put his foot down. And as a parent, that skill is kind of important, because, rule number 1 with kids, you can't negotiate with them. You gotta make it clear that you run things around here, and give a firm hand when they don't want to listen. See, when me and my brother did something really stupid, the second we heard either parent call our names or the second we heard footsteps, we were basically ready to die at that point. And Raze has a really hard time channeling that energy, which would often result in my parents having to step in for him, which, if you ask me, should not have to work that way, because they've already dealt with our dumbasses for 22 and 24 years straight. I love my parents, by the way. Probably my least favorite part of having to live with these kids is their nap time at noon, which basically meant I couldn't do anything that was remotely loud when they were napping, which is, you know, a little bit difficult when stuff like this happens. But hey, just be quiet, and no problem, right? Well, one problem. Their room is right next to mine, making my issue of having to not be loud that much harder. But what made this even more annoying is that my brother's room is directly below mine, and he can end up being so loud that my mom will think it's me being loud, resulting in me having to, multiple times, go down to his room and tell him to shut the fuck up! Now, dealing with them wasn't all bad. When I got my Clyde the Killer plush, I decided to be a little devil myself and tease them with it and tell stories about how Clyde will sneak into your room at night and devour you when you're asleep. You could see this as a form of revenge for Fifi kicking me in the face. I just see it as me being the a-hole cousin toying with them, and wanting to get revenge for her kicking me in the face. What made this even funnier is that they would go from absolutely loving Clyde to being absolutely terrified of him in the snap of a finger. Apparently, Fifi didn't like how much fun I was having, so she decided to be an even bigger nuisance. You see, I have two main rules when regarding my room. Number 1, if I'm not in there, you're not in there. And number 2, if you are in there, you don't touch anything on my desk or on my shelf. Now, what do you think they did? Touch my stuff, even after strictly telling them not to. Cause you know, kids just gonna be that way, I guess. I forgot to mention this in the script, but what made this even more annoying was that at the time, my door was, to put it lightly, total fucking garbage! And by garbage, I mean you could open the door without having to turn the handle, meaning it was stupid easy for them to get in, to the point where my brother, in one of the few acts of kindness he has ever done for me, got me a new door handle with a lock on it, meaning I can now finally be left alone in peace. As you could probably tell at this point, these little gremlins didn't really like being told to do something, as with any toddler, and Fifi took her acts of rebellion to an even further extent. I was making rice for the family, you know, being the Asian that I am, and Fifi tried to snatch my phone off the counter. Obviously, I made sure she didn't snatch my phone, because, you know, it's my phone, and Fifi didn't like that, so she decided to walk up and give me a good ol'... You done fucked up now! I didn't hit her back, I didn't do anything too crazy. I may or may not have dug my nails into her wrist out of sheer spite and hatred, but I mainly just gripped onto her wrist until she apologized, which she eventually did. If you couldn't tell at this point, Fifi just loves to cause some form of physical pain. But surprisingly, the worst thing she did weren't towards me. The worst thing she did was to Boat. One time when Race arrived home, I noticed that, only Fifi was with him. Where's Boat? And the reason why was because at their daycare, she just randomly decided to hit him. Like, really hard. I don't know what the whole context was, all I knew was that she was in a significantly lesser mood throughout that entire week. Which, I mean, was great for me, because that means I got a week free of... But the worst thing that happened to them got pretty bloody, so viewer discretion advised. One day, Race brought his race car along with all his equipment, trailer and all. And the kids were playing around on the race car, which was fine as long as they didn't do anything stupid. If you couldn't tell, that was an attempt at foreshadowing. A little later on, I was in the kitchen, making rice again, you know, being the Asian. And then, all of a sudden, I just see my dad frantically running into the kitchen, grabbing rags and water bottles before darting back outside. I could immediately tell something bad happened, so I ran outside, and I just see Race holding Boat in his arms as he is just bawling his eyes out. What happened was that Fifi was playing around and accidentally pushed over one of those trolley things, and it just whacked Boat square in the face. And there is just blood pouring out of his nose. Like, there was blood on his face, on his shirt, there was blood on Race. Like, it looked like a goddamn murder scene. Eventually, my dad and Race took him straight to the hospital, and you could just see and feel the amount of guilt on Fifi's face. Eventually, they got back and everything was fine, and if you're wondering, yes, Boat's doing okay. Overall, while they have been a handful and a half for the few months they were with us, I still love them as my little god siblings. They definitely made for some unforgettable memories, that's for sure. But while they did make for some great memories, we could not be any happier when Race finally found his own place. Meaning no more screaming toddlers, and I can get back to finally being loud! Moral of the story, if you have kids with you, be sure to treat them with the love they need. But also, please don't just pamper them for their whole life, because the last thing we need in this world is more of these people. Hey, so random last minute fun fact for you. So downtown from where Race used to live was actually where the original Halloween Town films were shot. Yeah, I'm not joking. That picture is the actual front of the school. That's the actual one. You can look it up. We actually even went there. There was even a little performance. It was really cool. Anyways, Silk Song's in a couple days. Can't wait to drain my whole life into that for the next month. Anyways, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, bye.